Hey there, welcome to the UkeStuff channel and welcome to this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Klōs hybrid 8-string tenor ukulele. I was sent it for review purposes. I am not keeping it. It is going back, but at some point they may send me a concert that I am allowed to keep, and if that happens, this would be considered sort of a sponsored video. So for the sake of that, I'm going to call it a sponsored video anyway, even if it doesn't happen, just so that you know, and we're on the up and up. And just for the record, I am open to any company sending me instruments to review, whether they allow me to keep them or not. I'm just happy to be able to share them with you and give you my thoughts from my experience as a music teacher and as an ukulele player. So with that in mind, what we're going to do in this video is we are going to look at some subjective categories that I look at with all instruments. Then I'm going to follow that up with the specifications of the instrument, and then I will close out with a summary and a UkeGuide rating between 0 and 5 ukuleles for the instrument. Now with this one, a couple things I should say before we get going. Again, it's all carbon fiber. I think it's currently the only company in the United States that's making a carbon fiber ukulele. I think there is a company in Canada making carbon fiber ukuleles, or they might be in the UK, but they aren't making single ukuleles, they're making harp ukuleles. And with that in mind, not only with this one, because this is a deluxe model, and by the way, it only comes in the hybrid, I think because they had to have a special neck made for this model. So they do not have a full carbon fiber version of this, but the body would be your standard tenor body, but it just has the extra strings on the headstock for the 8 strings. In addition to that, you get a decent gig bag. There are a couple things that I've mentioned in other videos that I would like to see with this one. I'd like to see a bag that opens up all the way. This one doesn't really open up all the way. It sort of closes on the top. I'd like to see a rubber bottom, but other than that, it's a pretty decent gig bag. And they also include a strap. I'm reaching that down and getting it for you. It does have Klōs stamped on it. I didn't need to take it out. It is a thicker strap, more towards a guitar strap. I like a thinner strap, about a 1-inch strap, up to about a 1.5 inch. So that's a little bit wider, but hey, it works. And then they also include a rain cover for you to go hiking with. So you can put your Klōs in your gig bag and then just kind of protect it as you march and walk around with it. So that goes around the back, so you can still put the backpack straps on, which it has, or just one strap on the back. Missing a padding there too. That'd be nice if it had some padding back there. Again, I'm not nitpicking the bag. The bag is great. It has some neat spaces in it, but could it be improved? Sure, but hey, for what you're getting, it's okay, more than functional for this instrument. In addition, this model comes with a Fishman pickup, and I am not 1000% on board with the Fishman pickup. I'm not even going to test the pickup with this one because it's going to be the same as the tenor that I reviewed with it. The hybrid tenor also came with the Fishman pickup. The one thing I do not like about the Fishman pickup with this is that there's not a battery compartment on the bottom. The battery is in a separate little pouch mounted on this side of the ukulele in this case. Last time it was down over here. This time it's across over here. And it's a 9-volt battery, which adds weight to the instrument. And they have a close brand to one that they use with their full carbon models, and I think eventually they're going to switch to all those. But nothing against the Fishman. It has a tuner. The tuner is, I mean, it's fine, but really for tuning something like an 8-string, something with a little more precision for tuning, such as if you saw I had to use my TC Electronics Unitune on it, is a little bit more sensitive to help you, especially when you're trying to get those, for example, the E's and A's right in tune. A little bit finer tuner than the Fishman is nice, but is it a great tuner pickup package? Absolutely. Is there anything functionally wrong with it? Not at all. I just like the ones that you can actually pop the batteries out on the side because they're 2032s and they're not 9 volts hidden there. It's just a purely function thing rather than actual function. So it's like maintenance thing, changing batteries rather than actual function. The Fishman probably is the better tuner actually in terms of cost, but it's a little harder to work with. So with all that said, also want to mention that if you want to support the work on the channel, there are 3 things you can do. You can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, and you can always buy me a cup of coffee to say thank you for making this content at buymeacoffee.com/UkeStuff. So let's begin. Subjective categories. Cost. They are $1,200, $1,199, and that is not cheap. But you are dealing with really the only rugged 8-string ukulele that I know of on the market. There's already not a whole lot that are made. Ohana has some, Kala has some, and I've got a couple to compare it to. I've got an Acklot that I own, and I've got a Baton Rouge still that I own, and I can compare it to those, but it's going to be completely different because it's not wood. So in this sort of market of a rugged instrument, and the neck is reinforced with carbon fiber rods too. So in this market, this is it. So if you're going to go out and buy a Kamaka, that's going to be over $2,000. If you're going to go get a Kanilea, they're going to start with 8 strings just under $2,000. So really, quite honestly, for a high-level instrument, $1,200 at this time, which is August of 2023, is pretty darn good. So the value, I think, is at the value. I think they set the market for the value, and I think the price meets the value for that. Now, the build quality, flawless. The hybrid model does not come with a gloss top. It comes with a matte top, and you can see my fingerprints are on here from playing and so forth. I do personally like their full gloss of the full carbon better. So just like the back here and sides are gloss, the full carbon comes with a full carbon glossy top. That is my favorite. I also like the black fretboard of the full carbon, although this one does come with a black bridge. So when we get to appearance in a second, I'll mention that, but the build quality is exceptional. Very, very good. There are two things I want you to be aware of. The first one is that it uses Graphtex plastic tuners. I have no problem with them. I've got a couple instruments with them and I've had no issues. However, early models had some snapping of the posts, and there's even been some discussions on more recent Martins that have been using these that have had post snapping as well. So, just so you are aware, you could potentially have an issue with a snapping post with the use of these on any ukulele. I am pretty sure Graphtec would stand behind that. I'm pretty sure that Klōs would stand behind you with that if something would happen. And the other positive is that you can always get a replacement and screw it right into place with very little work to be done to make that happen. So it's always replaceable as well. However, that's something to think of. Now, why would they choose Graphtec tuners that are made of plastic on here? I'm sure it's weight, because if you have an 8-string, one of the key things is its weight is going to pull it up. And quite honestly, if anything, this is actually sort of body heavy. So if I hold it right here in the middle, it's dipping down with the body. Not uncomfortably so. And again, if you remove the 9-volt battery, that may happen a little less as well. So that is, I'm pretty sure, why they went with Graphtec tuners, because it makes the head so much lighter. And by the way, Klōs usually has a smaller head, so they really did have to work to make this head possible. So build quality overall is very good. You might want to be aware of Graphtec's tuners and just watch it. Just watch it. It's not like you're waiting for a tragedy to happen, but if it happens, you'll be aware. Also with that, the action here is really good for a standard ukulele. However, and this is all dealing with build quality, on an 8-string, the lower you can cheat, the better, because your fingers aren't just playing one string, you're playing 2 strings at once. You don't really have to think about it as you're playing, you're just playing. But 2 strings offer more resistance than 1. So whatever the action can be brought down from standard is better. So this one, with all honesty, if I can be critical about it, could be set up even a little lower from the factory just because it's an 8-string. I guess the other thing I should mention, I'll come to this with sound quality as well, is they have it so you have the low G, high G, low C, high C, in that order. That isn't typically done with 8 strings. It usually is the high note, then the low note, the high note, the low note, and then the 2 same notes. Unless you're dealing with a concertina patch where they're all the same, but that's kind of where it goes. There's an end result that impacts the instrument here. Now, is that a huge quality control issue? No. Is it easy enough to change? Absolutely. Could have been a mistake on this one? Sure, it's possible. I don't even know how guitars are strung when you have a 12 string. Maybe they're all low, high, low, high, low, high. But an ukulele, that's usually switched around. And when we get to sound, we'll talk about that in a second. So there are a couple things to be aware of. Are they deal killers? None of them are deal killers for me. If you had super, super heavy tuners up here, then people be complaining about the weight of the tuners, right? And the headstock is so heavy in it. So you really can't make everybody happy all the time. They've done some nice compromises. And so the build quality looks flawless. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like to look at the inside of an ukulele. So what I am going to do is pull up my endoscope. I call this the internal Uke Cam. It's just a fancy way to say that I've got an endoscope. And we'll just see what we can see in there. There's not going to be a whole lot to see because it is a carbon fiber ukulele. So here we go. All right, we're looking in the sound hole. You can see the label there. What's kind of cool is people sign them, so you know the serial number and who built it. And looking in the back here, we're not going to see a whole lot. You can see that they've added a bridge plate to support the instrument. That's pretty good. It's glued in there. It's a little messy glue, but that's okay. You're never going to see that any other place. You can see the carbon fiber sort of spiraling on that, which is kind of a neat design. As we look at the bottom, you can see where the pickup goes in. And you can see where the piezo pickup is coming out from. And then there's really not much else to see other than the walls made of carbon fiber. All right, let's look at the upper bout. Okay, we're not going to see a whole lot here, but it looks like there's a little bit of extra support right under the sound hole up there. You can see how the top is sort of glued on. Over there you can see the controls. The pickup, there's a little extra block for your strap button on that side. Then over here you can see the battery compartment where you would replace your battery. And that extra block there also is for the support of the neck block as well. And that's all we're really going to see from the inside of this Klōs hybrid 8-string tenor ukulele. Now in terms of appearance, it's very plain, but it's very cool because of the carbon fiber. That's its selling point, not only for durability, but also for looks. I do wish the fretboard was black. I do wish the soundboard was gloss. This neck is a little different than the other one that I saw. This one is sort of a semi-transparent neck. It's not a gloss black neck, and I have to say, I kind of like that. It looks like they have the black gloss on the front, but they do go to the satin on the sides, it's sort of semi-transparent, and I like that a lot. So it's still very plain ukulele, but it's very, very cool. Now, in terms of availability, they are available for order right at the website at KlōsGuitars.com. In terms of playability, the nut is still under 38 millimeters, so it doesn't feel huge. It does have a rather C-shaped neck though, so it's pretty round. That could be a little bit thinner in profile. And then I would like to see the action lower on this instrument, although in scope for normal ukulele this is just fine. So playability is pretty decent. The neck could be thinner, the action could be a little bit lower. In terms of sound quality, it's a good sound quality. It can handle everything that I throw at it, but it's not overly loud. When I play my Baton Rouge, one of my friends, Steve, who might even comment on this video, Steve would just tell me, that is so loud. It's not quiet, right? This is not a quiet instrument, but it's nowhere near as loud as the Baton Rouge for some reason. And that's not bad. It's not quiet. It's more than acceptable. And if you need it to be louder, well, you've got a pickup to use. So no reason not to do that. The tone is very good, very chimey, but we have an issue with the strings being switched, I think, is where it happens, because you get a one single wound string for the low G, and it rings forever while everything else stops. Watch. Do you hear that note? It's still going. It's still going. And it just stopped. I mean, seriously. So I think what happens when you hide that lower G after the other string, it doesn't ring as loud. It doesn't get that first hit, that freedom to vibrate the way that it normally does here. So I think maybe that's why they string them the opposite way. So that really makes the instrument sound darker than it really is. So that's an easy fix. Two things you can do. One is you can get a string that isn't wound and put it on. Could be a fluorocarbon or something else like that. Or you can just take the strings and switch them. Now, I am not sure you have enough lead on the wound string to swap them out. You do on the other strings, but here you've only got a couple loops, and I'm not sure you'd make it to the post. So if you were going to swap out your strings, you would need to get a whole new set of strings, or at least a new low G. So that's a concern. What I would do is if I were ordering an 8-string Klōs, I would make sure that on the order form I said, hey, could you guys please make sure that you string it high G, low G, high C, low C, E, E, A, A. And that would be really the answer there. Now, with the tone, we're going to get impacted here by the string situation. But what I do is I play the ukulele into the app Tonal Energy Tuner on my iPad. And what that allows you to do is to see what I am hearing. So here we go. I'll play a C chord and just let it ring. It's going to ring for a while with that G chord, but here we go. Actually not showing up anymore, but it's definitely ringing. And the last one. I don't know if you could pick that up at the end, but it is just continuing to ring, 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 even beyond what Tonal Energy Tuner is picking up from it. So again, it's really hard to give you a flavor of what the instrument could be like because it has that so dominant G string on it, and I think that does impact it. All right, let's go through the specifications. It is a tenor ukulele. It does have a scale length of exactly 17 inches from nut to saddle. It has 19 frets on the entire fretboard with 14 to the body. There are side position markers at 5, 7, 10, 12, and even one at 15. It is a double bout ukulele with a carbon fiber top and a carbon fiber back. The fretboard is supposed to be Brazilian cherry, and the bridge is supposed to be made out of walnut. In this case, we are looking at a non-radius fretboard, and the bridge is a pull-through bridge, which means that you're getting the force of the pull from the underneath, so you should never have a separating bridge here. The saddle and nut are supposed to be made out of tusk material, and you know, it is cut in that special way for the 8-string down there. Nothing really overly special about the bridge down there. It almost doesn't even look removable, even though I know it is, because they've obviously put a pickup under there. The action is pretty low, but I think they could bring it down just a touch more right there. So it is a pull-through bridge. It is not a radius fretboard. It is not a compensated saddle. It has a matte top and a gloss body. I would like the all gloss. It'd be great if they could offer that, especially if they don't have a deluxe model or a full carbon model. And it is 26 inches from the top of this extended headstock to the bottom without the talking about the strap button on there. It does have strap buttons as well. It uses, as we talked about earlier in the video, the Graphtec Ratio Tune-a-Lele tuners, so be aware of that. The action at the first fret is 0.47 millimeters, and the action at the 12th fret is 2.54 millimeters. I think that could be lower for even better playability. You may not be able to get much lower here. I don't even think you have to mess with it. I think it just could come down just a touch more over here because you're dealing with, again, with 8 strings as you play. The nut width is 36.97 millimeters, so pretty narrow for an 8-string. The space, hard. Okay, remember when you're talking about spacing of strings, that's a really hard thing to talk about on an 8-string because you got, you know, you're talking between the choruses really. It's only 5.73 millimeters between each chorus. However, from G to A, it's 31.08, which is pretty wide. So the spacing is pretty wide, but if you think about the 2 strings being a really thick string, they're going to have less space between them. And then the other thing is the depth of the neck at the third fret. And this is the other aspect of the instrument that could be improved, is a little bit more shallow neck, a neck that isn't as deeply round as this. It's not uncomfortable, but it does make it a harder, a larger grip, at least for me. At the third fret, from the top of the strings to the bottom of the neck, it's 21.74 millimeters. That I feel like could be a little bit thinner. Now, again, they know the specifics. They may have tried different ones and saw where necks bent or failed or whatever, but it is supported by carbon fiber rods, so it is getting that reinforcement as well. So I would like to see a little different neck shape on the instrument. All right, so now we've talked about subjective categories and the specifications. Let's wrap up the instrument with a summary and a UkeGuide rating. First of all, I want to thank Klōs for having sent me their standard hybrid tenor, their full carbon tenor, and now the 8-string. I hope I get a chance to review the concert and baritone when they come out as well. And just as a side note, they have a concert that should be being released earlier this fall. It's taking them a little bit longer to get it right, but it also took them a little bit longer to get the first ones out. My friend, again, Steve, who bought one of the early Klōs models, I think from a Kickstarter, he worked with them, and I think they went back and forth a number of times, but they made sure to get things right, and then they improved their product further with the feedback that they got. So I am okay with a company, as long as you know that they're in business and they're going to fulfill their product, to wait a little longer to fill a new order of a new product and get it right rather than ship it wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I'm okay with that. And then they have a baritone ukulele slated as well. So those of you that are baritone fans, one is coming. So please watch that space at KlōsGuitars.com for when that baritone, because there is not much available out there in terms of rugged baritones either. In fact, they're just as rare as a rugged 8-string tenor as well. So just do keep that in mind. So with that said, this has the same body as those tenors. So it's everything that you'd expect it to be. It has a good sound. It looks really cool. It is rugged. It is, servable in that way. Remember, they did do the video. I talked about this on my first Klōs review about how they used a Prius, and incidentally, I own a Prius, that rolled over the body and didn't cause any damage to the body of the instrument. That's not the first company to do something like that. It's the first time I think a car has been used, but like Koaloha has taken a body and had people stand on it for a long time. So with that in mind, the body is really, rugged and lives up to that claim. Now, some other things about it. It does use the Graphtec tuners, so that may be a concern to you because there have been some that have been showing snapping. Again, I own some and haven't had that problem, but could it happen? Sure. But I do think that, number one, they're cheap enough to replace, because I think a set of 4 of them is somewhere in the $30 range or something like that. And then second, I'm pretty sure that either Klōs or Graphtec would work with people, I think. Yeah, is it a little bit of a hassle to deal with that? Sure. But you're saving weight with 8 tuners, and I think that's why they did it. Other things that I really like is that they had to come up with a new neck. It is a little bit too deep for me in my taste, but that said, I do love this semi-transparent stain. I think that is really nice. They kept the gloss black on the headstock, but they let this be transparent, and it looks great. I love that. Things that I'd love to see, again, just me. I like a black fretboard, especially since you have a black bridge. And I like the gloss top, which they don't offer on the hybrid models. But other than that, it's everything. I think it's still very attractive. Would that keep me from buying one of these? Either of those things? No, not really. Even the shape of the neck would not keep me from doing that if that is what I wanted to do. I don't use electronics this very often. In fact, I just recently led a song at the Silver Creek International Ukulele Festival. Hello to anybody that's watching that participated in that. I led one of the group's songs, and for the first time I plugged into In Public. That's just something I don't do. With that, you get the Fishman tuner. I did not review the Fishman tuner in this video because, quite honestly, it's the same as the one that's in the other hybrid video. So watch that video if you want to see about it. Basically, it allows you to adjust the bass, the middle tones, and the treble. You have a tuner as an option, and then you have volume. It's a great tuner. The negative is that the battery pouch, at least on their model, is on a little bag over here that you have to sort of reach in and deal with. Not a big fan of that. They do have a separate Klōs tuner that they use on their full carbon models that I like better because it has 2032 batteries. You just pop in and out right from the control panel. That I like better. They're also lighter because you don't have the 9-volt battery. But does it work? Is it a well-known tuner that's known for quality? Yes. So in terms of using of a not just a tuner but as a pickup system with a piezo pickup, really good reputation, really well known, excellent product. It's just the hassle of the 9-volt battery in this application. And then not only that, you get the gig bag, you get the strap with this one, and you get the weather cover. You really can't go wrong with it. For $1,200, that's right at the price point for this sort of instrument. Now, are there cheaper 8 strings on the market? Yeah, there's a few. Not many, but there's a few. So you can go as cheap as the Acklot. The Baton Rouge is in there next, probably. Then you probably get in the range of some of the Oscar Schmidt and the Ohana and the Kala 8 strings. Pono might offer an 8 string. And then you get into very, very expensive models such as Kanalea. And then probably most expensive, the Kamakas that are out there. So yeah, you can spend more than $1,200 on an 8 string ukulele if that is what you want to play. And it does have a certain tone that is unmistakable compared to any other ukulele that you might play. Same reason as you might want to play a 12-string guitar instead of a 6-string. You know, that sort of deal. So this is a really, really good instrument. What rating would I give it? For this one, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 possible ukuleles. Is it perfect? No. Is it close to perfect? Yes. Does it have everything you need? Yes. What is the biggest concern? If the action could be just a touch lower. In future models, if they can ever rethink a little bit of the shape of the neck. And that's it. I mean, if they get those two things fixed, and you know, the colors, like me liking a black fretboard instead of the cherry, that's just personal taste. But in terms of functionality, a little bit narrower neck, a little bit lower action, it would be a 5. As it is, it's a 4.5. All right. Thanks again to Klōs for allowing me to review this. Watch for a comparison between this and my other 8 strings that I'll have up at some point in the near future. And I hope you're all having a great day. And I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.